Hello everybody, it's Mike Levin on Thursday, March 5th, 2020, and I have just done a sudo apt get update on my version 16.04, I believe they call it Xenial, Ubuntu, Windows subsystem for Linux 2 instance. So I'm really on Windows here. And sometimes when I'm getting ready to restart after a long work session, I check for updates under normal Windows, updates and security. And I had checked it earlier this morning and there were no updates to do. So I decided I would do a sudo apt get update, which gets me quite a few updates. And then the next step I thought I'd welcome you in on, because when you do have two operating systems running on your system, you do have to update both. And the Windows one is mostly on automatic, but my Ubuntu one is not. So this is version 16.04, which was the last long-term support release by Ubuntu before 18.04 has become the latest. So the reason for this video is because I do believe I'm going to get myself on 18.04. See, they're already up to 20.04 and I'm on 16.04, both on my local Windows machine and my production servers. So at the risk of becoming a little bit uncompatible with my main local Ubuntu work system and my production servers, I'm going to move to 18.04, but it's a precautionary step to make sure that as those production servers get upgraded, either under my guidance or under the DevOps department, if they move on to 18.04 after this moves out of long-term support, which being the last one up, it's due to happen. So this is sort of staying ahead. And when you want to do one of these sorts of upgrades, it's quite similar to this sudo apt get update and upgrade that I have been doing before. The command is just a little bit different. It is, well, first of all, I want to show you the weirdest command on Linux to understand, or I guess it's on Unix long LSB release, to see what version you're actually on. So LSB release -A will confirm to you that I am on Xenial 16.04. So this is sort of a before and after. And the common wisdom on Linux is, well, first there's going to be a shutdown involved to make sure that that the upgrade is applied properly. But instead of update or upgrade, it's do release upgrade. See that? Sudo apt get do release upgrade, and that'll move you from 16.04 to 18.04, even on WSL 2. So I'll do a clear, and that's a sudo apt get released upgrade. This is going from, oh, whoops, my bad. This is going from 16.04 to 18.04. Sudo apt get to release upgrade, invalid option. Let's see what they're complaining about. Oh, it's probably just the command naked. It's not even with a sudo apt get. Do release upgrade. Bam. Please install all available updates for your release before upgrading, which is what I thought I had just done, which is why I had Googled up the process of rebooting, because you may not notice, but when we ask for a new Ubuntu shell even after I closed out of the whole thing. So that's a, let me close out of this. This is the equivalent of like quitting out of Linux. There are no open terminals to Linux on my system right now. All you see, it's just Chrome settings and the screen recorder. So when I bring up a terminal, watch how fast this happens. Bam! There's some magic going on there. In my research, I'm led to understand that this is part of the Intel hypervisor technology, and that this Windows subsystem for Linux is an instance of a light Hyper-V, if that sounds familiar to anybody. But at any rate, there's a whole bunch of stuff preloaded in memory using all the techniques that are used with virtual machines. So when you bring up a new terminal window, even to a unbooted Unix machine or Linux machine, it's just that quick. Pretty amazing, right? So anyway, they're telling me to use the PowerShell, which, as you can see here under the Unified Terminal, is just a different tab. Takes even longer to bring up a Unix terminal, doesn't it? So the command they're telling us to do a reboot. If you want to shut down and open an admin PowerShell, oh, I'd have to do it in that WSL distro -- shutdown, right? So the command is WSL. I know I'm on Ubuntu 2 -- shutdown. Ubuntu 2 not found. But I'm pretty sure that is what I named it. I wonder if I have to give a full path. That would be terrible. Oh, it's under Kubernetes or that Docker thing. Let's just try a -shutdown. Why should I have to tell it which one I'm using? The whole subsystem can do a shutdown, right? Yeah, that's more like it. And now, when we bring one up, it is after a shutdown has occurred. You can see I still have WSL1 lurking around there just for fallback. There's some difference in the network configuration. Now that do release upgrade should have a little more success because, hey, really? That doesn't seem right. Let's try sudo apt-get update. Sudo apt-get upgrade. Doesn't look like much has changed. Let's try sudo do release upgrade. All right, so let's see why it's asking us that. It's 2019. Let's try under WSL2. Same page at the top. Let's try with 16.04. Didn't take it. Though the process was not all well. -d, I wonder what the -d parameter is. Give that a try, right? Checking for new Ubuntu release. Upgrades to the development releases are only available from the latest supported release. Oh well, I guess this is a failed attempt to do this sort of upgrade. I may have to end up just reinstalling. The way they recommend this, you can see how sparse my start menu is. If I want to do stuff like the Apple Store, I just type in Store with their weird new icons. Oh, they're saying I'm not online. That could explain a lot. I shall pause, refresh the page. There it is. That would explain a lot if I actually didn't have connectivity. So I am just going to try executing that command one more time. Same deal. Bummer. Okay, so what I wanted to show you is that you can now type Ubuntu from the store, from the Microsoft Store. And here it is. I'll just get it. Of course, these are probably a few gigabyte downloads these days, so I doubt I'll be making you wait through it. But we'll take a look at how fast it actually occurs. Not bad, right? Would you like to see the installing of Ubuntu 18.04 on Windows, subsystem for Linux, WSL 2? The product is installed. Let's see what happens when we hit launch, right? This could be an interesting video after all. I'm sure I'm going to get my share of thumbs down from starting out with that do release upgrade from the command line path that I had started out on. However, this could be better because I have actually upgraded my old WSL1 Ubuntu instances to WSL 2, which took a long time and had lots of gotchas, and I've never really worked with a fresh system on WSL 2. It's always been upgraded systems, and this will be my first fresh Ubuntu. It'll be really my third Ubuntu instance, and what I'll do is I'll just move stuff around so that things aren't blocking things that I actually will put on this middle available window so we can check the install. The store, we don't need anymore, I don't suppose, although I'll just minimize it unless there's some connectivity still between the store and the installer. I doubt it. But just for me to reiterate again, this, and why not, I'll bring it up, this is WSL1. This is Ubuntu 16.04 under WSL1. This one here is under WSL2. And this here is just a Windows PowerShell that I just changed some of the colors so that it's more appealing. So we can type WSL. Okay, that gets us one of those instances. WSL-help, which is a pretty common standard for figuring out what you can do with a command. And it turns out we can do things that are like distribution, run a specific distribution, export, list, C-L, list of distributions. So WSL-L will show me that I've got Ubuntu 2 as my default, although it doesn't show me what WSLs they are. There's probably a more verbose option on list. Help, register, terminate, shutdown, set version, set default, verbose. I just saw a verbose, and that verbose probably, hopefully, is for list. Ugh, I hate that. Okay, so let's just try -v here. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So you can see that I'm installing currently. This is going to be a good video, right? How many people are out there doing this? That's in the next window over. I'm showing you the proper use of virtual screens. I'm using Control Window to, you know, go between these where Microsoft has seemed to set the perfect speed. I don't need that update thing anymore. But I could also use the 2-finger or the 3-finger swoosh, which is, I believe, a blatant copy of the way Apple does this with trackpads, which gives you much more control over the speed with which you're flipping screens. So Windows Tab is also another lovely little shortcut where you can just drop any of your active screens on any of the other virtual desktops. You can rename your virtual desktops. This is the 18.04 install. But you can't reorder them amazingly. So Windows has a little ways to go. That install is still taking a few minutes. I guess I'll continue to do stuff and, you know, talk you through things here to get familiar with this environment, which is Windows 10. I still make it sort of the dark and cloudy Windows. They're moving to more of this bright thing with all these bright icons. They're going all IKEA, as every operating system inevitably goes through its IKEA phase. Microsoft has done it before in the form of Metro that led to the whole start bar ribbon motif that is mostly killed. It sort of has some new life in tablet mode when you switch to tablet mode. But, you know, I like working in you know, traditional Windows desktop mode, and I like the look that it establishes. Okay, so this may take a few minutes. That may be an understatement. This, I do believe, is doing the whole Ubuntu download and upgrade in the background, because that download from the Microsoft Store was much too quick. That's not all the resource files that's actually necessary for this operating system. It's also worth noting, while we're doing this waiting, I'll show you around some of the other WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux things people will be curious about. It is not a desktop. It is not a Linux desktop system. Although one of the things I do is run this X-Windows server here. VcxSrv or something. Let me right click on that, show you its options and names. XWinRC, and it lets you do such silly little things as Linux graphical software. Now I want to do it from Ubuntu 2, not Ubuntu 1. If I were to do it from Ubuntu 1, it would not work, because the display port context, as well as the networking context, is in fact different between this and this. For example, this shares the IPs of the host machine, and if you're running VPN, you can actually do VPN stuff from your Linux subsystem. Network connectivity through the host that piggybacks on whatever network trickery your host machine is doing, including VPN. Can't do that here. This is using a more QEMU. If you'll remember, I created a version of Linux called Levinux, which runs off of a old school PC emulator called QEMU, which has this whole virtual LAN system, so that your whole subsystems have their own networking context. They get their own IPs, they get their own network, virtual local area network, where they share their subnets and stuff, and can communicate with each other, but cannot communicate necessarily to the outside world without special, bridges to make that happen. Connectivity between the virtual machine, and it's a security precaution, but you can't use VPN from your Windows you can't use your host's VPN from your Windows subsystem. So that's a little bit of a tangent. Let's see how that install is going. Still may take a few minutes, but what I wanted to show you is just silly old xeyes, right? I've shown you this before, but you can see we get Windows. We get Linux Windows. We get, if I can move it, see that? Now that is on a Windows desktop, really, even though you see the terminal behind it. Let me Alt-Tab, and I can drop that out on this window here. And there are my, very Linux, very X Windows, xeyes system. And other things can run like this too. I believe I can get Chrome running while that install is going. Let me see if I can boot up Chrome. This is an all over the place thing. So if I just Control-C out of that, those xeyes will disappear. But Chromium Browser. Usually this pops up through fancy scripting things that I do. It's a lot of warnings and stuff because it is not a very typical install. Some features may be unavailable, but there it is. That is, in fact, Linux Chromium. This Chromium is not Windows Chromium, and I can put it over here on a separate window. And all the stuff that you can do with Linux Chrome, like Puppeteer automation, in a way that you can turn the headlessness of it on so that you can actually run Chrome invisibly and do stupid server tricks. So, just to show, this is Mike Levin SEO. People are advertising their AdWords on me, apparently, but fully functional, non-signed in Linux Chrome on Windows. So while WSL 2 is not, in fact, a Linux desktop, it does let you run Windows applications right in there. No desktop from which you can double click that, but while we're waiting, let me show you stuff that maybe you can. Gnome, maybe I can get the Gnome Desktop, right? Not found. Xstart, no. Nautilus, maybe I'm spelling that wrong. Nautilus, look at that. Pretty fancy, right? While it's not a true Linux desktop, I keep making that gaffe. You can make it kind of that way. Not even sure. Let's see, Chrome. Chromium. Not easily found. Maybe I can open a terminal from in here. Open in terminal. Interesting. I'm not even right-clicking on anything. Let's see what happens if I open in terminal on nothing. I do, in fact, get a terminal. And nice. Let's try Chromium Browser. And so there you go. If you want the Chromium Browser on something that looks vaguely like a Linux desktop, you can run Nautilus first. It's still Windows. In fact, I can probably Windows tab and drop that whole Ubuntu desktop anywhere I want. Although it didn't move the Chrome window with it, did it? So they exist independently. Pretty fancy, right? A little disjointed. It's not particularly the highly integrated experience people are looking for. But look, I can quit out of that and probably, well, I don't even know. Let's see if Chrome keeps running. I don't even know how I would quit out of that. New folder, open terminal. Oh, there's your open terminal if it's not on a Nautilus window. Change desktop background. Now, I guess because I launched that from a command line, where is that command line? That is this one here. If I Control C out of this, that should get rid of it. See, no more Ubuntu Desktop. And let's see, the Chromium window, I believe, is also gone because it was launched as a child of a terminal that was launched as a child of that. And this is just going to take forever. I am going to relabel what this video is going to be because there's no way I'm going to make you wait through this whole duration. It may take a few minutes. This is going to take a while. This is probably a gig or larger download in the background. And so this will be part one of showing you around WSL2, Ubuntu 16.04, an upgrade to 18.04, whether you can do it from the command line or you have to do it through a separate install through the Windows Store, which is not really such a bad thing because, as they point out in one of these videos I have going here, not videos, but one of these windows I have going here, each app, meaning each app you download from the Microsoft Windows Store, creates a separate root file system in which Ubuntu shells are opened, but app updates don't change the root file system afterwards. Installing a different app in parallel creates a different root file system. This is the chroot trick in Unix, which has been widely used in the container world, posing as something innovative and new. But changing your root of your file system is a pretty proven old way of getting an approximation of virtualization without a performance hit from translation layers and stuff. So those tricks are generally used to have multiple systems installed on the same hardware at once, and giving you the ability to switch between them. Typically, it was a full switch. With chroot, you give your whole system over to one version of Unix or the other on your hardware. However, with all this hypervisor and all this virtualization help from the hardware chips and stuff, they can keep them running at the same time. And that's what's happening here when you see me having these different tabs. This is one, WSL1, with Ubuntu 16.04. What is that command? LSB release, -A, 16.04. Same as on here, 16.04, but they are different instances, as you can see here. Running 16, this is a 16.04, this is the other 16.04. You can see I have WSL2, version 2 is my default. That's why when I use my shortcut for a terminal, it brings it up with the black background instead of that transparent background I have on the other one. Or instead of PowerShell, or instead of the old-fashioned Windows CMD, or instead of this new thing called Azure Cloud Shell. Let's see what that does. So you visit a web page, you enter a code, and it tells you when it's going to expire. Okay, sure, why not, right? Let's see what this Azure, pick an account. Let me now close this window. Could not find any tenants. Well, whatever that is. Try Control-Cing, try closing it, bringing up another one and seeing what that does. Is it the same code? Okay. I don't even know. Well, at any rate, hopefully all this expires and it's different codes by the time you're watching this video. But there you have it. You've got a number of different command line or shell types you can get to under the unified Windows terminal, which is now available on the Windows Store. So to get that thing that I'm using, you just go Windows Terminal. And you can see I already have it installed. That is what I'm running, and it's a preview, but this is the direction the world is going. So if you are doing any type of work like this and you have to remain literate and capable on the Windows platform, no matter how much you hate it, you're probably going to have to, because it's a big part of reality in the world and business. And you also want to be a Linux guru, especially on all that back-end development stuff. But I tell you, back-end and front-end is all just silly. Windowing systems are inconsequential. They're snapshots of the day. They're platform-dependent ways of working. The only true cross-cutting your career, time, and platform interface that there is are these command line interfaces, and particularly the Unix-like ones where you do all that kind of server work. So this is still going, but that's a pretty darn full video, and I showed you a lot of stuff about WSL 2. In fact, I'll wind up here on one of these WSL 2 screens. And Echo, thanks for joining me, and hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.